What's going on, middle school? Welcome to week 2 of our series called Moods. It is a series that is all about emotion, and man, I am so pumped about today's message. We're actually going to be looking at one of my favorite stories in the Bible about Jesus and his disciples. But before we dive into that, I have to get a little personal with you guys. I want to share something that's actually kind of sensitive for me, okay? And you guys, you're my support group right now, and so I'm going to share something, and you're not allowed to make fun of me, okay? All right. Has everybody seen the movie Lord of the Rings?
You shall not pass!
Have you seen that movie, Lord of the Rings? Not like all the ones that are new, but like there's the original trilogy of the movies that came out like early 2000s, maybe like 2002, 2003, something like that. Well, the first one is Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring. And I watched that at my friend's house when I was like 10 or 11 or something. So I was like right before middle school or just getting into middle school. I can't remember which one it was. But anyways, in that movie, there are these characters that are like these undead king guys. And they're like dressed in black and they ride these black horses and like you can't see their faces. They're like ghostly kind of guys. And I don't know why, but when I watched that movie, those guys scared me to death. Like I was so afraid of them. Like so much fear came over me when they came on the screen. I like literally could not handle it. Like we were having this big sleepover. It was like me and like 10 other of my friends. And like I was the only one in the room that was like tucked under my sleeping bag, like scared to death watching the first Lord of the Rings. And the Lord of the Rings isn't even a scary movie, okay? And I'm dead serious. Like to this day, whenever I watch Lord of the Rings, I'm 30 years old, guys. When I watch Lord of the Rings, I'm like, ah. I mean, like I just get freaked out, man. Those guys, I'm scared of them. So let me ask you this. Don't say it out loud, but what is the biggest thing that you're scared of? What is something for you that when you think about it, or when you see it, or when you hear it, it just like creates fear. And like those things are real in our life. Like there are things in our life that actually create fear in us, and we are actually afraid of those things. I know for a lot of people, when you're like a younger kid, like you're kind of scared of the dark, maybe you're scared of certain noises. I don't know why, but my little boy, Collier, he's 3, and if he's asleep in his bed and he hears a train, like for some reason train horns scare him at night. I don't know why. He loves trains. Like he plays with toy trains all the time, but he's scared of trains. But there's things in our life that really do scare us. And so what happens when something scares us is we typically have one of 3 responses. One is fight. We want to fight whatever that thing is. Okay, we want to like battle against it, fight it, get through it, something like that. Fight, that's one of the responses we have sometimes. There's also the flight response, which is where when something scares you, you're like, whoop, gotta go, I'm out of here, peace. Okay, like something freaks you out and you are getting out of that situation as fast as possible. You are like turning and running. That's the flight response. But there's also the freeze response, to where something that scares you, all of a sudden you're like, and you just like, you freeze and you don't know what to do. Okay, so those are 3 typical responses that we have to fear: fight, flight, and freeze. And so what I want to do today is I want to look at a story, one of my favorite stories in the Bible, of Jesus and his disciples. Now, Jesus and his boys, the region they grew up in and were living in the Middle East, had several large lakes. And these lakes were so big that when you would sail on them, you would truly feel like you're almost on an ocean. Like you would kind of lose sight of land, and maybe you would see something off in the distance, but you would kind of feel isolated on the water. And several of the guys who hung out with Jesus, who were his disciples, they were experienced fishermen. They grew up on the water. They knew how to swim. They knew how to fish. They had been in storms before. And like they weren't freaked out by water at all. Like they were super comfortable with it. And so what we're going to do is we're going to look at a passage in the book of Matthew of a story of Jesus and his disciples and kind of a scary situation they got into, and how the disciples responded, and how Jesus shows us how we can really respond to fear sometimes. So in Matthew chapter 8, we're going to look at a story, and the little title of it is called Jesus Calms the Storm. So check this out. Then he, being Jesus, got into the boat, and his disciples followed him. So they're going on a boat ride. They're going to sail across the lake, and everything should have been fine. Suddenly, a furious storm came up on the lake. In this region, these storms come up super fast, so this is not uncommon at all. So that the waves swept over the boat, but Jesus was sleeping. Jesus was sleeping. I'm going to pause real quick. I would bet there's some things in your life going on right now that scare you, and you feel like Jesus is sleeping right now. You feel like God's nowhere to be found. Your parents are splitting up. Your grades are bombing. Somebody has some really bad health. This pandemic thing is still kind of going on. And there's some things in your life that maybe are scaring the crap out of you, and you honestly feel like, all right, Jesus, I feel like you're asleep right now. I ain't heard nothing from you. What's up? Let's keep reading. The disciples went and woke him up. So they're so freaked out. They're like, we got to get this joker up. They woke him up saying, Lord, save us. We are going to drown. These are experienced, hardcore, rough fishermen. They're tanned up, hairy guys, like they had been on the water before. And this storm has scared them so much, they are afraid they're going to drown. But check out Jesus' response. This is absolutely, like this will rock your world if you let it. He replied, you of little faith, why are you so afraid? Because Jesus, there's a storm and we might drown. Maybe that's a reason, I don't know. Then he got up and rebuked the winds and the waves, and it was completely calm. The men were amazed and asked, what kind of man is this? Even the winds and the waves obey him. Now this story is amazing to me because we see a couple things. One, the disciples, even though they were physically near Jesus, they didn't trust him fully yet. They didn't trust his power. And what's even cooler is when they freak out, Jesus shows them that, hey, you need to have some more faith because check this out. I control even weather. Jesus has control of even the storm that they're in that moment. Even when Jesus was asleep, he was still fully in control. That's how powerful our God is. That's amazing to me. But it's cool that Jesus shows his disciples something here. He says, yeah, when you're in a bad situation, you can be afraid. You can try and fight. You maybe will run away. Maybe you'll just freeze when something bad is happening in your life. But there's a fourth option. You don't just have to fight. You don't just have to flight. You don't just have to freeze. There's a fourth option. You can have faith. You can have faith. And actually, this is totally crazy because my word for the year is faith. That's the word that I'm focusing on this year. And faith pushes us to trust in something or someone, giving them ultimate and complete trust. And so that is what Jesus was telling his disciples to do, and that's what he tells you and me to do. We should have faith in him. He proved to them that he's powerful enough to control that storm. He proved to them that he's powerful enough to make that storm go away. And I don't know what the storm in your life is. I don't know if there's financial trouble in your house. I don't know if your parents are having some fights. I don't know if there's health scares going on right now. I don't know if school is really messing you up right now. But Jesus is telling us this: have faith in me. When fear comes up, when you have those moments where you are afraid and things are scaring you, Jesus tells us this: instead of letting fear control you, let faith control you. Because of Jesus, fear doesn't have to be the boss of you. It doesn't. It doesn't have to control you. So here's what I want you to do. Next time you're afraid, next time something is scaring you, a legitimate fear, not like some made up stuff, but next time something is scaring you, I want you to go to Jesus with it. Whether that means you start praying to him about it, maybe crack open your Bible and read some stories about what Jesus did. But next time fear is trying to take control over you, say, no, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this fear, even if it's real, I'm going to take it and I'm going to give it to Jesus. I'm going to give it to him because he proved to the disciples and he'll prove to you that he is powerful enough to control those storms, to help us with our fears. And he wants us to have faith in him. So all through this series, Moods, as we wrap it up next week, we're going to continue to talk about emotions. And here's what I want you to understand, is if we put our faith in Jesus, he can help us with our fear. If we put our faith in Jesus, fear does not have to be the boss of us. So ultimately, the best thing we can do is put our faith in Jesus.
Thank you so much for watching our Orchard Students Ministry YouTube channel. But don't stop there. Hit the subscribe and like button so you don't miss any of our content. And also share this with any of your friends and family. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook to keep up to date with upcoming message series and events. Thank you again for watching, and God bless you.